The following podcast is the views of two men, two incredibly honest, ruggedly handsome men, who professionally wrestle for a living. If you disagree with the views within, that is cool. If you become an idiot, Shane will probably put you to sleep.
Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
Big Gus and I realize that while we may talk about social issues and politics and sports and so many different things, many of you are wrestling fans, and considering this is a wrestling podcast, no better place than to tell you about our good friends at Bob's Wrestling and Toys. Action figures ranging from the stars of today to the legends of yesterday, along with a who's who and a what's what of wrestling must-haves. From masks to posters, collectibles to novelties, Bob's Wrestling and Toys has it all. Visit them today on Facebook at Bob's Wrestling and Toys or on Twitter at BWrestlingToys and get the direct links to their eBay store. Whatever you spend, 10% of it coming right back to you thanks to Bob's Wrestling and Toys. Just put the promo code GUS in the comments on your checkout. Let them know you heard it here. Use the promo code GUS in the comments, get 10% cash back, and get everything wrestling fans could dream of and so much more at Bob's Wrestling and Toys.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
This is the fruit of our hard work, the belief in the entrepreneurial spirit, the new American dream. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am!
Gus! Uncle Gus is the uncle that liked to work the grill. As soon as he walk in the house, he's like, get away from that grill. You don't know how to start no fire. Throw the match. That's a fire. Look at that.
Gus, you come over and you burn down my backyard and your wife rips down the steps. Gus! Why? I work hard to get my place beautiful. Gus!
I want you to put your hands together.
Gus!
Big round of applause.
Gus!
Mr. Randy Watson, yes!
Shut your chocolate!
Damn, that boy can sing. He must be crazy. He good.
Gus! And away we go. Welcome in, off and running with another edition. Another episode, if you will, of Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money or something like that. J-Rocc Daddy. Big Shane Taylor. Shane on the other end. Gus, you with me?
Oh, I'm here, baby.
And we are live and off and running. Of course, a lot of you off and running. This is the busiest, at least wrestling-wise, travel week of the year. All of the biggest shows of the year converging practically in the same area in New Orleans, on top of thousands of shows across the country with, of course, the big WrestleMania, big Super Card of Honor, and Gus is down there. Lots of things to talk about and get into, so we figure we're going to have some fun. This is going to be a fast-paced, travel-based episode. We'll talk about some road trips and some fun stories, but before we get to the business of the show, let's get to the business of the show. Thank you guys for joining us, and we want to thank, of course, the people that help make this happen. Of course, our friends at Bob's Wrestling and Toys, which you heard about at the beginning of the show. If you buy anything from their eBay resale store, use the promo code GUS in the comments, and just like that, 10% of whatever you spend, they'll send it right back to you in a cash rebate. You can't beat 10% cash back. Use the code GUS in the comments at Bob's Wrestling and Toys. And of course, Pro Wrestling Tees, the site for many independent wrestlers all over the place, ProWrestlingTees.com. Shane Taylor and I both have stores there, and all through the next few days, of course, many of you are going to hear this on lots of different sites and different places that you get your podcasts and you get your audio. But wherever it is, anywhere through Monday, you can get 20% off of our shirts or anything that they have at ProWrestlingTees.com. All you have to do is enter the promo code MANIA, MANIA, just like WrestleMania. Promo code MANIA at ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor or ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc. Grab a shirt from your boys here, support the show, and save 20% all weekend long while you're at it. As well, guys, don't forget, continue to like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Gus and Gus Podcast, and please continue to rate and review the show on iTunes. It does great things for us as we continue to rise up in the little popularity. However, the algorithms of iTunes work, all of those star reviews and ratings help with that. So please do us a favor and drop us a note if you do, and we'll give you a shout out here on the air. Whew, all kinds of business going on, Gus. I know you're in the business of heading down, doing the New Orleans thing yourself this weekend, man. What do you have on tap? Of course, the big super card this weekend, but you're starting out with Wildcat right off the rip.
That's right, baby. Wildcat Sports, one of the places that I sort of got my start when I reset down here in the South. New Orleans, Louisiana, one of the best companies in the world. Myself and Ryan Davidson going against Buku Dow, Sexy Chino. Of course, I am the former two-time Wildcat Sports heavyweight champion, not only the only two-time champion, but the first African-American champion that the company ever had. So I'm already a Hall of Famer down there, Gus. It's no big deal. But, but yeah, made my return there. OG triple. We out there doing big things. But made my return there out of some time away, after about a year away. Really to just handle some business. The guy who took the Wildcat Championship from me was Buku Dow, and he beat me in the rematch. So, that doesn't really sit well with me. I'm not a guy that takes losses lightly, especially back-to-back ones. So, I'm going to make sure, as well with Ryan Davidson, that we leave a very special moment with Buku Dow and Sexy Chino, and they're going to understand, if you will, not necessarily how to give it up one time, but they're going to know. They're damn sure going to know what it's like to face the wrath of Shane Taylor.
Talk about one punch, Shane. Talk about facing the wrath of Shane Taylor before we talk about the rest of the week and all the things coming up. Last week's episode, which we got tons of feedback. Thanks to all of you guys out there who do. And please don't forget, continue to feedback with us. If you're listening live, today is a little of an awkward live recording date, a little different than usual. Traditionally, we drop these things live on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, but this week a little bit different with the travel. But you guys can always tweet with us if you're listening now, whatever time of day it is, at Shane216 Taylor, at J-Rocc Daddy, JROCC Daddy. Same for both of us on Instagram. Hit us up. Let us know what you guys think of the show. Last week, lots of you talked to me, and got a kick out of it. Your boy Rhett Titus, by the way. Shout out to the dogs and the big dog. I got a kick out of lots of people got kicks in good ways and bad ways out of your nightmare traveling, talking about getting frustrated and taking care of business. That's kind of what gave me the idea for this week, was listening to you. It may have been the most artistic story you've ever told, just in the art of storytelling. The way you weaved me through the ups and downs and the woes of losing your gear and then your keys throughout the week. And by the way, still time. If you know where them keys are, there's time to get them to Shane Taylor. There's lots of anonymous ways to get them keys.
No. Check that. There is no time. You're out of time.
Time's up.
You were out of time. The moment you took them keys out of my bag.
Time's up.
You understand? Listen, I don't care who you are. If you got my keys, don't have them. Hide them. Throw them away. Do whatever you're going to do. Listen, they're out in L.A. They are out in L.A. enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the weather, pressing that button, trying to find a key, the alarm for the car that goes to that car in the parking lot somewhere of the pyramid, and it's not there. You know why? Because I live in Houston.
This is a bad plot. This is like a bad plot from a sitcom, because somewhere in Los Angeles right now, there's some innocent stoner dudes walking down the street who randomly found a set of keys, and for weeks they've been going, man, we really wish that we could find the person whose keys these were. Meanwhile, Shane Taylor's out here planting homicide on these people. These poor stoners found
Allegedly.
I'm just saying, Gus. I'm just saying. Why we gotta be so. I get it though. It was definitely a nightmare of a story. That's what Rhett Titus tweeted back at me. He said, "Man, that is the nightmare story," and indeed it was. But We've got tons of those, man. Like I said, that was kind of where the idea for this came from, but we appreciate the feedback, as I can always tell you how to build a watch when you ask me what time it is. To get back to the point, hit us up, let us know what you want to talk about as we're going through it, and throughout the time as well. Share with somebody on your feed what you're listening to right now. Click the share button, whether it's on iTunes or on TuneIn or iHeartRadio or wherever you get the show. Hit the share button and tell somebody else to listen to it now, man. Gus, calm down over there, man. You got
listen. All right.
You got a big week.
I am
This is a huge week.
You're right. There's more important things to look forward to than whoever has my damn keys. But,
that's right.
But on a more positive note, let me thank everybody out there for allowing my pain and suffering, to allow my hardship to bring you so much joy and bring you so many laughs. That's what I live for. That's what I live for. You know, as T.I. said, my life is your entertainment. You know what I mean? That's why I'm here.
As long as the end result is okay, it is at that point allowed to become funny. As many of the things we'll probably talk about here. They weren't funny while they were happening. There was nothing near funny while they were going on. But in the hindsight,
and if I find you with my keys, it won't be funny either. I promise you. It won't be funny.
I was just asked that the other day. I'm like, what makes it okay to tell the story? I'm like, if everything's okay, like if everybody's alive, or if enough time has passed or whatnot, then there comes a point.
Yeah, as long as nothing catastrophic has happened.
Right.
Like, it's like, all right, I mean? It's just bad luck. It is what it is.
Exactly, man. So,
but speaking of catastrophic, if I find you with my keys, catastrophic is what's going to be.
Speaking of shout-outs, by the way, as I segue over, Ron Graham on Twitter says, listening to Gus and Gus with, that's Gus and Gus on TuneIn. Gus, he says, you said time has run out for whoever found the keys, man. So thanks for listening. Again, just like Ron, keep interacting with us. That's really what makes this a lot of fun. And hey, getting back to New Orleans, before we go on and start just BSing around and telling some stories, having some fun here, a lot of serious stuff. I got to tell you, and I'm not in any way doing the whole tooting my horn. Like I helped some of you guys out, but man, sitting back, kind of proud this week, looking at all of these things that are going on and just knowing whatever piece I may have had in helping some guys get there and looking at where they're at. I mean, besides yourself, pat on the back, right, being a part of the biggest card in attendance wise and card wise, whatever you want to say, focus wise, all of that in Ring of Honor history. But EC3, we talked about him last week, and, being with him since literally day one when he started. I mean, not all along the way, but being there all the way back then. And then knowing that this weekend, he will be on stage, in center stage, with some of the best athletes in the world on the biggest NXT thing, and really the biggest WWE weekend that they've ever had coming up this weekend, And our boy Ray Rowe, while he still may be waiting for the machine to unleash the machine, he's there, and Sarah's there, and just knowing that the people that we know and that our crew is there, and yourself and everybody, and we're all doing different things, but man, this weekend is a hell of a proud weekend, man, and it's just really cool to
absolutely
sit back and watch.
I mean,
and be like, damn, man,
Oh yeah, for sure, and also, not only for our boys that are there, but other people that we know as well. Shouts out to Johnny Gargano. Shouts out to Corey Graves. SJK. He's been killing it there.
Cedric Alexander. I mean, there's another guy. I mean, you can go on and on, guys that deserve it. But I mean,
Cassius Ono, all the guys down, there that are absolutely tearing it up and carving their own, way in the machine, as you so eloquently put it. I mean, that's what dreams are made of, and that's why we do what we do for moments like this, for weekends like this. For opportunities like this. I personally can't wait to see them tear the house down, oh man. I don't even have the words because I'm so excited, but I just can't wait to see what happens.
Oh, I'll tell you, something that, and you know what? You know, a lot of times there's things that people didn't even know they wanted to see until they decide they want to see it. I think WWE has stumbled across one of those coming out of this, man. Wait until EC3 and Ricochet do some individual stuff together. I mean, I think there's a money dynamic there. And I mean, that's just two of the guys that are in that deal. But, you know, like you said, the list goes on and on. And I mean, it's a Ring of Honor. It's everywhere. I mean, guys all over. Your boy Keith, your former tag team partner, and all down there doing all kinds of big stuff that weekend. I'll tell you what, something interesting too. I mean, and it's part of their, by they I mean WWE, their attempts to compete with the independent convention that has become WrestleMania weekend. It's become a cottage industry of everybody bringing their wares down there and all of the indie shows. But you can see WWE by doing what they've done with Evolve and Progress and the different ones. Look at the independent guys that they're using as part of Access this weekend. I mean, they've got all kinds of different tournaments going. I know Jason Kincaid, a guy who works a lot of independents up this way, is there. As I said, Keith is going to be defending I think he's the WWN champion, but he's going to be defending that there. And I mean, just like those are opportunities that independent talent never had before to be on a stage like that, you know.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
for sure.
All kinds of just cool stuff everywhere, all over the place.
Absolutely. You know, and there are so many. I wish all of those guys nothing but success. Keith particularly, I mean, obviously everybody knows about or has heard about, you know, when I knocked him out in Dallas at VIP, for basically, you know, acting like, you know, he did all this stuff by himself. And people think that I don't want him to be successful, and it's the complete opposite of the case. I am overjoyed that he's got opportunities like this. I hope he wins that tournament. I hope he defends that WWN championship. I was glad as hell that he won the PWG World Championship. I hope he keeps them both. And then whenever he decides that he wants to step in the ring with your boy, I'll be able to show the world I didn't beat Keith Lee on a downslope. I beat him when he was at his best. I beat him when he had the world at his fingertips, and I still knocked him out. So, with all of that aside, you know, going back to the platform deal, so, you know, and the chances that independent guys never had before, this is their chance to have the world look at them, to have all the eyes of the wrestling world and the world in general on them to see what they can bring, and there's going to be some unbelievable performances.
It's going to be an awesome thing for everybody involved. Like I said, you're down there doing Supercard of Honor, and Ring of Honor's got a huge thing going. That's going to be fantastic. Wildcats down there. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. Lots of, you know, all kinds of friends down there, and it's just a good week. And all over the country, as I said. I mean, I'm not there because I'm here, and I've got pre-existing bookings that I had, and trust me, I would have joined the traveling regalia down there, but man, I'm one of those guys, Gus. I'm not patting myself on the back, man. But when you're booked, you're booked, you know. And so when you've already taken a commitment, you don't go somewhere else just because the opportunity may be brighter. I'm going to have a lot of fun doing what I'm doing, by the way, in Warsaw, Indiana. It's actually kind of a bigger show there. They've got a couple of promotions, which you don't see this much in independent wrestling, that we're actually able to work together and co-promote a show and have members of two different promotions that both draw pretty well on their own doing a co-event there in Warsaw, Indiana. And that's how you get those bigger crowds, when you get, you know, instead of the two companies that draw a couple hundred apiece and they're fighting with each other over the scraps, you know, every once in a while you come together and you get the nice things that you see. So whether you're going to be in a town like Warsaw, Indiana, whether you're in New Orleans, no matter where you're at, this is a hell of a weekend of just to be in the wrestling business, because the tide is up, as they say, and the big ship raises all the other ships around them. So with WrestleMania comes the wave that raises it for everybody else, and the good ones take advantage of it, and then the next year builds to the cycle all over again, man.
Oh yeah, I mean it's, you know, it's a machine, and it's the clock that never stops, but we wouldn't have it any other way.
Hell no. no, man. Hell no, man. And you know how you get there? You travel. And that's kind of the whole point of what we were going to talk about today, man. And you really, like I said, going back to it, you gave me the idea of it last weekend, man. And I'll tell you, I've got one that I don't think I even told you. And this was pretty recent. Speaking of Warsaw, Indiana, I was traveling back from there, I don't know, 4 months ago. I think it was November-ish. And I had my son with us in the car, and JD Smooth, a local wrestler here in the Ohio area, was driving. And so my son's in the back seat. It's about a 5.5 hour drive from Warsaw. And JD Smooth, man, look, I love to drive. I'm a road warrior, Gus. Like, I know not at all times in my career was that the case, but I am indeed a road warrior at this stage of my life. I can't get enough behind the wheel. So I'm always like, hey, Smooth, man, you can let me drive anytime. No, man, I got it, and whatever. He's all hopped up on caffeine and whatever it is that keeps him moving 500 miles an hour. So he's like, I got it, man, I got it. And so we're driving, and, we're 3.5, 4.5 hours in. He's nodding off a bit. Son's passed out in the back seat. I'm sleeping by this point in time because I'm even dozing off, man. I mean, here we're like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm breaking the rule, but, I've been in this 20 years, and I figure, what the hell, man. At this point, I think I've earned the right to nod off an hour before we get back to Cleveland. Major mistake, man. So we hit the rest stop, and when you're sleeping and you get somewhere and you kind of wake up a little bit,
right.
So I noticed the car stop, and Smooth's like, hey, man, I got to get out, man. I got to go stretch, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. And I doze right back off. Like, I'm chilling in the passenger seat. I'm out.
Right.
Wake up 15, 20, 25 minutes down the road. Oh, man, what's up, Smooth? He's like, oh, man, I'm good now, man. I just got me some coffee in there. I used the bathroom, man. We're good to go. All right, cool, man. I looked up at the sign. We're at about Elyria, so we're within a half an hour of Cleveland or so. Turn around.
Right.
Turn around to wake little Jerry up. Dude, where the hell's Jerry? What do you mean, man? Damn. I said, dude, where the hell is my son? And I'm like, pull over. Dude, I'm flipping out because I'm half asleep and my son is nowhere to be found. And since I'm asleep, I don't know how long we've been driving. I don't know how long he's been missing out of the car. And my son's phone is sitting in the back seat dead since the battery died. So I have no way to communicate with him whatsoever. I don't know where he could be. I don't know where we could have left him. Dude, I'm flipping out. We're on the turnpike too, so of course the exits are 800 miles apart. It's not like we can't just get off 2 miles away. So it's like 8 miles to the next exit. Longest 8 miles of JD Smooth's life, because by this point I'm fuming. Like, how the hell can my son not be in the car? But I'm not. I still have to find my son, so I can't exactly start.
I was
yelling.
angry about someone having my keys being lost and my bag being lost. If that was my child, it's a problem.
I'm fuming. Problem. But we have to find Jerry, and I'm still in somebody else's car. Like, I have to keep things cool. So I'm just sitting there silent. And it's the longest 8 miles, man. I mean, it's just, Eminem could have wrote a song about this 8 mile, that's for sure, because it was long. And then we get off and have to go all the way back. And he's like, no, man, I'm pretty sure it had to be at the one rest stop and blah, blah, blah. So we go all the way back. Now, really, man, by now, it's 40 plus minutes that I've known that my son is missing. I'm just a wreck at this point in time because I don't know how to even find where he's at. So we have to overshoot the exit because, again, we're on the turnpike. So, you can only get off on each side. So we have to overshoot the exit, get off the turnpike again, get back on the turnpike again to get off at the rest stop where my son is sitting there at the door and waiting for us. And what had happened was I'm sleeping. So I had no clue, but apparently when Smooth went into the rest stop, my son woke up. He had been asleep in the back seat. He woke up, went to use the bathroom. JD Smooth came outside, got in the car, and did not check to make sure that everybody was in the vehicle because Jerry was asleep. And I guess I can't blame him 100%, even though you kind of always, you do kind of check. But at the same point, he was half asleep, jumped in the car, just took off and did not even realize that the boy had woke up, gotten out, and went into the rest stop, and he left my son in a rest stop in some random place with no cell phone, no way to communicate with us, and no way to even know. He said he came outside, and he goes, Dad, at first I thought you guys were ribbing, because you know me. I mean, obviously my son would expect that to be a rib, that we would be screwing with him, you know? He goes, Dad, and then after like 15, 20 minutes, y'all didn't come back. And I'm like, oh, damn, they're not coming back, man. And yes, dude.
This is
imagine that, Gus. Imagine that road trip, man. Like imagine waking up. I turn around, I'm like, hey, Jared, wake up. Jared, wait. Where the hell is my son? That was exactly how it turned, dude. And he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I mean, where the hell is my son, man?
I mean exactly what I said. I didn't speak another language.
That's what I said, pretty much those words. I'm like,
child?
Oh, Gus, I'm like, what do you mean? He's not here. He's not here, man. Oh, dude.
Listen, you're a better man than me. You're a better man than me because I had been driving that car solo back to go get my job because that would have been a problem.
It was very, 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 very tough, man. But that one, talk about flipping out, man. Like,
but see, like that's one of those things that you were saying that is funny now.
Now
bringing it back because nothing catastrophic happened. Now it's like, remember that time?
He's
like,
alive.
But you need some time to pass because in the moment that is not funny, boy. That is not. That is the furthest thing from funny.
Gus, it was the scariest moment of my life. I turned around and he was gone. And it's one thing to know that you left him at the rest stop. Like, that's okay. But I had been asleep for so long that I didn't know at what point we lost him. And Smooth couldn't tell me at what point because he didn't notice at what point he came missing. So literally, we were at a point of having to perhaps stop. If we didn't have the right rest stop, we would have been just backtracking to Indiana and then driving back and stopping everywhere until we found him. It would have been, it could have been even worse than it was. But man, yeah, talk about, I've lost all kinds of things. Gus, I got crazy luck like that, man. I've had some crazy things like that happen on the road, but definitely losing my son is right up there.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, man. I mean, how do you even? I mean, you started off the stories with a banger. I don't even know how. You know what I mean? How do you compete with that sort of story? You know what I mean? That's like, that's the walk off. Like, all right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we had a great show, and nothing is stopping that. So we're just gonna.
You don't travel every hick road for 20 years and have a lot of these crazy things happen. You've been on enough of them with me, you know, man.
Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. I remember.
By the way, that's part of what's different about the business today. And that's like Jim Cornette and people say, oh, they're all out of touch. But that's one of the things that they say is right, is that guys don't do the drives. Guys don't wrestle in the country fairs anymore, or the county fair, country fair. That's a gas station chain in Pennsylvania. Wrestle at the county fairs. They don't wrestle at the state fairs. They don't wrestle at the bingo halls and all of the different things, all these different things that are going to lead to these kind of stories that we're talking about, that is what is the fabric of the wrestling business, on top of, everything else. That's one of the things that's different. Yes, they still make drives and stuff, but it's not the same. It's not as much. It's a lot more independent, smaller groups of guys, smaller road trips, all of that stuff,
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I see their point about that, and I think more so from a skill perspective. I don't think it really has anything to do with honing your craft in wrestling other than repetition. But at the end of the day, once all the lights fade away and the money's gone and the fans are gone, and you get to that point in your career where you're done, your your reputation and your stories are what you have to hold on to. You know what I mean? And hopefully you save some cash because there's no real retirement plan. So there's there's no 401k in this job. But you know, those stories are going to be what you take with you. So the opportunity to have those stories and to have a very lively and fulfilling, you know, career as well as some crazy stories with your buddies is something that we all want to have, you know. So I think that's what they mean, and that's what they're talking about when they talk about that stuff. And yeah, man, that's we've got a bunch of them.
Yeah, right. Because my son, every time for the rest of his life, he go, "Hey, Dad, let me tell you about the time my dad left me somewhere." You know, like you said, it's what leaves long after the money, the injuries, all of that stuff goes in different places, man. But that's the bonding of it too, Gus. You know, there's that bonding to traveling on the road together.
Because there's stories like this that you can share, and then there are clearly stories that you go, "Hey, we're taking this to death." You know what I mean? Like, I better not hear about the story outside of the two of us. You know what I mean? Because we all have those.
Look, man, Gus, story, good and bad. Listen, man, traveling with me is especially in my younger days. I wasn't the worst of the worst, but I wasn't innocent partying myself either. You know what I mean? Like, I contributed to much more of my share than now. I'm a little more level-headed than I am. But traveling with me can be frustrating because, you know, if you happen to not notice, I do like to talk a little bit. I interject quite a bit of conversation, and I can get hopped up on some caffeine pretty quick. And I can definitely, like, for a quieter guy, I'll tell you what, man, talking about friends of ours and road trips and our boy Ray Rowe, I've got one for you. So traveling I don't even know if I'm sure Ray has told you this story by now. Traveling for a weekend. Mm-hmm. It was a crazy weekend. Matt Justice, this guy from Cleveland, he booked shows in Chicago, Cleveland, and Dayton over a 3-day weekend. And he had a big roster of guys, all kinds of old ECW guys. My car for the weekend was Tracy Smothers, Little Guido, Bret Hart, and myself. And we were driving around. I went to... we all drove. Actually, Ray Rowe and a couple of guys rode up to Chicago with me. Iron Man did up there, and then that was my group riding back the rest of the trips. And then Ray and I met back up to ride back. So I had been riding with Guido and Tracy, and by the way, the opportunity to spend 3 days just in a car with Bret Hart, like, oh my goodness, talk about one of the more invaluable, understated experiences I've ever had, because there's nothing that happened that you would post on Facebook about or make some big deal about or anything, you know, like none of that. It wasn't any draw attention to yourself stuff, man. It was just like, actually, small world. I picked Bret up that weekend, and him and I were in the car, stuck in traffic in Chicago, when he got the phone call that Roddy Piper had passed away. He was silent on the phone. Yeah. We're in traffic. He takes his call, and it was Roddy Piper's wife, and he got real quiet, and he hung up the phone. He looked at me, and he said, "J-Rocc, Roddy Piper just died." Just like that. Like, that was how I found out from Bret Hart. So I probably knew relatively early compared to most people, just because I'm guessing, you know, Bret found out pretty quick. But like, that's crazy just to think that here we're stuck in traffic at that moment. So, you know, we talked about that for the whole one way, and then with Tracy and Guido getting in the car, and they were having some fun. And so it was fun. And there were all kinds of crazy stories, stampede stories, and stories from other territories where they crossed over, and some different things. And just to think about it, to travel with those guys for the weekend and hear just keep your mouth shut and learn was amazing. So anyways, we had some fun, and the reason I preface it with that is because we're in Tracy Smothers' car. So we get to Dayton, which is the third night of the weekend, and everybody does their things, and then we're going to recoup ourselves in and go head back. So everybody's going in different cars, and all of a sudden, like, things went crazy at the end of the show. Papa Don got put through a table by Sabu, and he got his face busted open. And oh yeah, he got like a dozen, maybe even more stitches. He got his lip ripped open. And the worst part about it, and this kind of contributed to the rush of everybody being ready to leave, and Ray was frustrated and ready to go. We were in a 6-man tag. It was like, it was Sabu, it was 3 ECW guys. It was Sabu, Shane Douglas, and somebody else, and doggone it, I can't remember who, the Rhino. And it was Ray, myself, and Papa Don. And we're doing a 6-man at the end of the night. And so I remember Ray coming up to me earlier, and he said they were, like, we had put the whole match together, and they wanted something about a table came up at the last minute, and they only had like this busted up table. Like, it wasn't a great table at the building.
Right.
And like, Ray straight up told me, he goes, "Hey man, I don't have a problem with the spot, but there's no way that table, man, that's just asking for something to happen, you know?" And like, I wasn't in the mood either, to be honest. Like, so I thought we weren't going to do it. Well, Papa Don is an ultimate professional. He pulled Sabu aside and said, "Oh hell, I'll do it with you." You know, he was more than willing. That wasn't the issue. But anyways, you know how sometimes you just get a feeling that something's a bad idea? It was one of those kind of things. And everybody kind of said, "No, we don't really need to do it." But anyways, we ended up putting it in. Not a big deal 99 times out of 100. And of course, the table didn't break right, and Papa Don got his face split. So we're dealing with that, and everybody's, you know, they're trying to get him medical treatment, and he was not, you know, happy by any means, of course, because he had got a flight to take, and his face is now ripped open, and he had to get to his real job at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so guys that actually, I want to say Ray actually not packed my bags, but my stuff was kind of relatively together in one area. So I think everybody kind of got stuff in a pile, all of our bags and stuff. And it was like, "Hey, we're just waiting on you. You ready to go?" So kind of rush, wasn't ready to leave. Right. Say goodbye to everybody, jump in the car. We're taking the rental car back up. It's me and it's Ray and it's a couple of other guys that are heading back to Cleveland. And so Ray's driving. We take off, and at the time, Ray had some people back at his parents' house, and he was really looking forward to getting back and having a few hours before he fell asleep to hang out. You know, we were looking at getting back at a decent hour. And let's just say that the best laid plans then run into your boy over here. So we're driving down the road. And now I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to Tracy and Guido, because they had actually already found their way to the hotel bar that was next to the building. And so Tracy called me, said, "J-Rocc, I'm over here, man, you know, blah, 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 love you." You know, we did our goodbyes over the phone instead of in person, which is a key detail to what I'm about to tell you next. So I started panicking about 30 minutes into the trip back to Cleveland. Where's my car keys? I start looking all over, because I've got my house keys, my car key, everything. My car's parked elsewhere, and we're heading back up, you know? And the last place they were was in Tracy's car. So I'm panicking. And now Ray's like, "Hang on a second, dude. Hang on. What's going on?" He pulls off to the side of the road. Ray's very patient, man. Trust me. It took a while for me to test this man's patience. And and test his patience I did on this night, Gus.
Oh, man.
So we start looking. We're tripping. We're looking for the keys. Okay. We're not that far. We're about 25, 30 minutes out. All right. A little mad, but we'll go back and get the keys. Call Tracy, and let's make sure before we turn around. Okay, so I call Tracy. Takes me a minute to get a hold of him, because as I mentioned, him and Guido had already begun the after party. Hey, it was a long weekend. Why not, right? They're at the hotel bar having some fun. Finally, somebody answers the phone. I can't remember if it was Tracy or Guido, but it took a minute to get through the goofing around on the phone to go, "Look, man, serious. Look, you guys rushed and took my bags out of the car, blah, blah, blah. Can't find my keys. Do you have my keys?" "Oh, J-Rocc, I'll go look, man." So they put the phone down. Tracy goes outside, searches his car, searches everywhere. Nowhere to be found. "J-Rocc, I don't have them, man." Ray's like, "We got to go back." So Ray just turns around on the freeway. We start heading back. So we're heading back. You know, I can already see the knuckles getting white on the steering wheel just a little bit as we're driving, you know, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm really sorry about that, man, you know, and Tracy calling back, and, you know, Guido's kind of goofing around in the background, having fun, not realizing that there's like a little serious situation going on here. So, you know, it's all kinds of stress going on at the end of a long 3-day, 1,200-mile weekend, you know, and so sure enough, just as we get, 10 minutes away from being all the way back to the building, as Ray hits the gas or the brakes or whatever, something caused the car's momentum to shift a little bit, which then caused my car keys to fall out of where they had been put in the car and right in front of us. And I watch Ray's eyes drop and look at the keys. And he just starts looking at the keys, and his legs shaking just a little bit. And he looks at me, and I'm like, good news. I found my car keys. Ray pulls off the freeway. We're not talking anymore, by the way, just in case I need to throw that detail out there. We're no longer conversing at this point in time, and I'm cool with that. 100% cool with that. And, no, Gus, if the story had just ended there, it'd be like, oh, that was a long story with a payoff, but the story doesn't end there. So we start heading back. We get off the freeway. We get back on the freeway. We're now, gunging our way right on back to Cleveland. Everything's good. All right. Ray's even talking a little bit, not much. Right. Definitely, you know that you've got angry Ray here, you know, but,
which is my favorite Ray of all time, but yeah.
Says anybody who he's not angry at. You will never say those words if you're the person that he's angry at that point in time. But anyways, so we have to go get gas. So we get off the highway, and we pull off to I will never forget, it was a BP station. And so, you know, some things just stay in your head. So Ray goes in, uses the bathroom, whatever he does, pays, blah, blah, blah. Everybody does their thing. Get gas in the car. We get in the car. Start driving back to Cleveland. Chugga, chugga, chugga. The little train that could, right? We're going to make it to Cleveland, even though J-Rocc lost his keys once, made us turn around for nothing, headed us back home. We're going to make it home, right? Absolutely. J-Rocc reaches about 10 minutes into this trip back after we get on to use his phone. He goes, what the hell? And literally, it took a half a second to hear Ray go, what the hell are you looking for? And I'm like, dude, seriously? I know you're not going to want to hear this, bro. We got to go back. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I can't find my phone. I must have left it on the counter in the gas station. He's like, are you he's fuming at this point, right? So he gets off the freeway. We turn around. We go back. We get to the BP station. I go in. Nowhere to be found. I walk, the slow walk, checking the ground. Like, could I have possibly dropped this thing anywhere? I look all over the gas tank. I've got my back to the car. And I'm like, damn it. I can't believe my phone's missing. And as I turn around, my car, with its plastic rubber OtterBox, is on top of the car. I had set it on top of the car. It stayed there the whole time, and then we found it when we went back. It had never slid because the rubber of the OtterBox kept it like locked into place. Anyways, at this point, Ray looks at everybody in the car and goes, I don't care. I don't care what you got. Everybody's got everything. We're not stopping again. And it was nonstop to Cleveland. And let's just say we've had longer goodbye hugs when we got back to Cleveland. But, you know, I mean, we're friends again. It's all cool now, you know. He still takes my calls and stuff. We're good. But as someone who knows Ray, you can only imagine the level of anger raising at each point in that. And I'm next to
because he's got family, especially because he's got family waiting for him, which is one of the, which is probably the thing he values most in life. Like, if wrestling left tomorrow, if the money left tomorrow, that's fine. But family stuff and wanting to get back for that, oh man, especially as busy as a schedule he had, I'm sure. And allow me. And I don't think he'll mind this. So he'll probably be a little mad for me sharing this, but in a funny way. Allow me to give everyone listening a Ray Rotel, maybe for your safety, in the future. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who don't really know him that well or know him as well as we do that could not understand that they're in a situation that could involve their immediate harm if they don't know what this is. So, Ray Ro, as you said, is one of the most patient guys in the world, right? But everybody's patience runs out. And if you find yourself in a situation with Ray Ro, and it starts to get into a heated sort of situation, if he ever grabs his face and pulls his beard, and does a big sigh and looks back at you, end the conversation.
Gus,
end the
conversation. How many times he grabbed his
and
beard?
Walk away.
Do you know how many times he stroked that beard while he was driving that night?
He's pulling the beard so he doesn't punch you in the face. That's what that is. So if anybody out there, I don't care where you're from, I don't care where you're at, I don't care where you're going, if you're in a situation like that and you see that, just remember, danger, danger, back away, leave the calm conversation, and let cooler heads prevail. Do not try to help the situation. Do not try to make it better because you're only going to make it worse. And then once that happens, there's nothing that we can do about it. So remember, deep sigh, face grab, simultaneous beard grab, danger, danger. But yes, go ahead.
Danger, Will Robinson.
That's my Ray Ro public service announcement.
That's the best way to put it, because there was a whole lot of just stroking the beard that night. Like I said, Ray and I, that may have been the closest we ever came to not being friends. May have been that little drive right there.
Oh man, I imagine too. Like as the keys popped out, it's just like.
That was the bad one, because...
Are you kidding me?
First, it was like, are you sure before we turn around? I don't mind turning around. Okay, let's go get the keys. Then it's all the way back before you realize we didn't have to do any of this because the keys were in the car to begin with. Then you make up all that time back and you're starting to make good time. And then the whole, anyways, sometimes J-Rocc being J-Rocc is a lot funnier in hindsight than it is when you're traveling at the end of a 1,200-mile, 3-day road trip.
Ooh. Oh, man. That's two bangers in a row, man. That's two bangers in a row.
What do you see, Gus? You talking about Keith Lee? Look, what are you bringing to? Look, this is what you bringing to the table. What you bringing to the table is Gus and Gus. Right now, it's just J Gus Daddy.
Listen, that's all well and good. My contribution was last week when the whole world was laughing at me losing my bag. Let's not forget about that. But
that is very true.
But I have another Ray Ro story, travel story of my own.
Okay.
And coincidentally, we were in Kent, Ohio, coming back from, or either going to a Pittsburgh wrestling show, and met up with some guys that we knew from the area there, and decided to all go out for breakfast. Now, let me preface anybody that doesn't know myself or Ray Ro, what we look like. I'm about 6'2", 310 pounds now. Big black dude. Ray Ro, about 6'1", 250. White dude, bald head, big beard, tattoos everywhere. All right, so we're not the friendliest looking people from afar, right? Or even up close, really. But in the group of people, the group of individuals, the group of gentlemen that we were rolling with, we were the least intimidating looking people in this group. All right, so let's just put that together. You've got you literally got a group of guys that look like they just walked out of San Quentin, walking into this King's restaurant, which is basically like the Denny's of the Pittsburgh area, right?
King's.
Yeah. No shouts out to King's for this story, by the way.
No love.
You get no love. from your boy.
Don't even hashtag. Don't even add them in the tweets if you're out there.
No, don't even. No. I don't want one dime coming to them because of this story. But so we walk into this place, and it's a Sunday morning, Sunday brunch time, and so the crowd there is a lot of elderly white folks just enjoying their Sunday, just having a nice breakfast,
absolutely,
just loving life and getting ready to probably go watch The Price is Right or Wheel of Fortune when they leave. Just having a good old time before this.
Let's make a deal,
right.
All that stuff. Right?
Absolutely. Before this group of hoodlums walked into their life and completely shut down the restaurant that they were at. So we walk in, and Gus, it is like a literal movie scene when we walked in. There was no jukebox playing, but if it was, that's when the thing would have skipped, because it would have been, and everybody stopped. People stopped moving. They stopped eating. Waitresses stopped walking. You know what I mean? And everybody's eyes immediately turned to these 5 dudes that just walk into this King's. And I imagine the very first thought they had wasn't, hey, they're here to enjoy a meal. But probably like, yo, are we about to be robbed right now in broad daylight? But good news for them. We've seen this go down, so good news there. We weren't here to rob the place. We were just hungry, and we wanted to grab a bite at a place that we were told was reputable. So we were like, okay. So immediately we start off, and me personally, if anybody knows me, I'm not someone that I can't take someone staring at me or looking at me and not saying anything. I feel like it's awkward. So I have to say hello. I have to at least acknowledge the fact that we locked eyes and that I saw you and you saw me, which doesn't necessarily help the situation right now, because then it looks like I'm sort of trying to intimidate people as we continue to walk in. But it was just, hey, I see you. Hey, what's going on? Hey, how you doing? And people's eyes diverting from me back to their food, trying not to look.
And y'all don't understand, by the way. Gus walks in like Willie Mays Hayes in Major League. How you doing? How you doing? My man, right. How you doing?
Right. And some people like that. Some people think I'm being a dick. But I'm just, hey, hi. I mean, hey, what's up?
That's what we do everywhere.
But so we sit down. The waitress reluctantly comes over, gets everybody's drink order except for your boy, and brings straws and napkins and silverware to the table for everybody except for your boy. And you probably already see where I'm going with this story. So
at what moment, Gus, do you look at everybody else and go, "Hey guys, do you notice something missing here?"
I didn't have to say anything, because right as I was thinking that, this is why I love Ray so much. Like, right as I was thinking that, he looked over and says, "We saw each other, and we were both like, here we go." Like, you know what I mean? He goes, "Did you get silverware?" And I was like, "Nah, man." I was like, but maybe she had her hand full. I'm still trying to give the benefit of the doubt here. You know what I mean? So as the lady goes to walk away, Ray, as he is known to do, "Excuse me, ma'am. Yes, my little brother didn't get his silverware." And she goes, "Oh, well, I'll bring it right to him." We're like, "All right, thank you." Still trying to play it cool. So she comes back. No silverware, mind you. Gets everybody's drink orders, brings everybody a menu. Still sitting here with nothing. And now I'm looking at Ray and kind of laughing to myself at this point, because I'm like, and I'm telling the group, see, this is why I'm glad these things happen in a group. So there's witnesses for this. So no one can be like, "Oh, you're making that up. We don't live in that kind of society anymore," because you're wrong, and we do. And so she takes everybody's order, takes their order. I still don't have a menu. I don't have a drink. I don't have silverware. I don't have a straw. Nothing. I'm playing with the sugar packets, because this is really all I've been given to entertain myself. The food is cooked. I've now, at this point, after they've been given their food, placed my order. They sit down, they eat. Finally, my food comes out. We're all eating. My food doesn't come out until after they're done, right? So they are done eating. My food comes out. So now they're obviously ready to go, but they're not leaving because I just got my food. So I'm trying to still converse, but eat my food as fast as I can so we can, so I'm not delaying the trip. And, Ray's sitting there. He's fuming like he's asking me. He's like, "You want me to say something?" I'm like, "Nah, man. Like, let's just eat." They already gave us a rep when we walked in here. I'm just trying to eat. I'm just trying to keep it beautiful. I just want to eat this food. And it wasn't bad food. Yeah, I'm really not trying to be that guy right now, And so we're cooling, So as I'm eating, the waitress comes back with the checks, with the bills. She walks directly up to me. Now, mind you, I've been the last one to get everything this whole time, even my food last. And she gives me my check first, and doesn't just give it to me like, "Oh, here you go." She proceeds to forcibly slap it on the table, look me directly in my eyes, and slide it to me like, "I'm giving this to you, so you know and I know that I gave it to you, so you can't run out of here and not pay."
Don't you try to pawn this off on somebody else. You're going to pay
right,
this, boy.
Exactly. So, as she does that, I hear Ray out of off to the side. I hear him go, "Jesus!" And I then sit back and go, "You know what? Okay, like this is the guy you wanted. This is the guy you wanted. Okay, here we go. Like you wanted stereotype black guy when we walked in here. This is what you worked for, lady. This is what you're gonna get. You know what I mean?" And I was like, "Allow me to explain to you something. I'm paying for this meal. I make more than this is when I, just had another job than just about everybody here. I'm going to pay this bill, But what I'm not going to do is tip you for your terrible service. What I'm not going to do," and I basically just broke her down verbally, which for everybody else, like, "Well, she's just like, shut up." She was an asshole and had a problem. And she deserved to get chewed out. Anybody sit there and shut up. And then we called the manager over, and of course, he was very apologetic. And well, sir, if you would like us to comp the meal, I go, "No, I don't want you to comp shit. I don't want you to comp a thing. I'm going to pay for your terrible service. I'm going to pay for your terrible establishment. And I'm going to walk out of here and make it a point to never come back in here again or anybody else that I know because this is absolutely ridiculous." And I never have gone back. That's why you don't need to tag them in this because screw them. I will never eat at a King's or walk into a King's again because it's absolutely terrible. But yeah, and we just left there, and the guys that we were with were like, "Yo, what was that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is the world we live in." And I'm like, and I'm so glad that other people were there to see it because these are the stories that I could tell, and people were like, "Man, bullshit, that didn't happen. No, it couldn't happen." I'm like, "No, it happened just like that." Just like that. You know what?
Speaking of stories we could tell, they ain't heard nothing yet. Listen, calm down, Gus. We're going to take a break here. We're going to tell you about some shows that are coming up, talk to you about Pro Wrestling Tees. Don't forget, use the code MANIA all the way through Monday. Save 20% off Shane's T-shirts, my T-shirts, and anybody else on there as well. We have got you ain't heard nothing yet. Hell of a lot more to show when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Gus and Gus eat the world, and it's money. We'll be right back, Daddy.
Gus and Gus eat the world, and it's money.
The show that asks the question,
what you talking about, Will? What you talking about, Will? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Will? What you talking about? What you talking about, Will? What you talking talking about? What you talking about?
We'll be right back.
Gus and Gus eat the world and its money. As always, brought to you by our good friends at ProWrestlingTees.com, where you can get some of the great designs from yours truly, J-Rocc Daddy, and the big homie, Shane Taylor. Whether you want to get the One Punch Shane, Knockouts for Everyone t-shirt that's so popular right now, or many of Big Shane Teasy's designs, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor. And of course, yours truly has the Give It Up One Time t-shirt. Several popular logos on there mixed in with the Big Daddy of Destruction flavor. All of that and more at ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc, J-R-O-C-C. So whether it's Big Shane Taylor or the Big Daddy of Destruction, go to ProWrestlingTees.com and pick up one of our shirts or one of the many great shirts they've got there. ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor, ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc. Give it up one time, and thank you for supporting the Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money podcast daddy.
Independent wrestling is the lifeblood of our sport. Every week, some of the best talent in the world present the art of professional wrestling all across the planet. Here's a listing of some of the events you can catch Gus and Gus and so many other amazing wrestlers in the coming weeks. Pack up the family, grab some friends, and head on out to one of these spectacular cards, including April 5th. Wildcat Wrestling at the Sugar Mill in New Orleans. Details at wildcatwrestling.com or wrestlecon.com. Then, on April 7th, it's Ring of Honor's Super Card of Honor in New Orleans. Be a part of the largest live attendance in ROH history. More information at rohwrestling.com. Also April 7, FWF teams with Heroes and Legends for a joint super show in Warsaw, Indiana. Go to Heroes and Legends on Facebook for details. April 14th and 15th, Ring of Honor is back on the road with stops in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania and Columbus, Ohio. ROHWrestling.com for tickets and information. Then, on April 20, FWF Friday Night Funk, fundraiser for Normandy High School athletic boosters at Normandy High School in Parma, Ohio. John David Myers on Facebook for tickets. April 21st, RWA in West Newton, Pennsylvania, where J-Rocc challenges Shane Andrews one-on-one for the RWA Championship. April 28th, Wrestling for Warriors and Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore team up against cancer for a Super Show Spectacular at the Fort Wayne Civic Center in Fort Wayne, Indiana. House of Hardcore and Wrestling for Warriors on social media and their websites have all the details. April 29th, Sunday afternoon, welterweight wrestling takes place from Cleveland, Ohio in historic Turner's Hall. You can be there live or watch all across the world on Fight.tv. It's the most talented array of athletes 185 pounds or under ever assembled in the United States. 3-hour, 3-camera HD shoot. welterweightwrestling.com or welterweight wrestling on social media.
And now, let's get back to Gus and Gus Eat the World and its money.
Welcome back, Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money podcast. J-Rocc Daddy, Shane Taylor back on the line as we come back. All kinds of shows, as you heard, coming your way. Thanks to Joe Dombrowski for bringing you those each and every week. And, of course, it starts Thursday the 5th, Wildcat Sports at the Sugar Mill in New Orleans. Super Card of Honor on the 7th, Warsaw, Indiana, and FWF and Heroes and Legends this weekend. A lot of stuff going on. And we talked a little bit about that earlier in the show. You guys keep the conversation going with us wherever you're at, however you're listening to the show. Tweet with Gus1. Tweet with Shane over there at Shane216Taylor, and you can hit him up on Instagram, the same at Shane216Taylor, or hit me up at J-Rocc Daddy, J-R-O-C-C Daddy on Twitter and Instagram, wherever and whenever you're listening to the show. And hey, click that share button and tell them that the guys just got back and it's time for you to get back into the Gus and Gus podcast and talk with them, as well as we're talking about traveling and some stories we were telling went longer than we intended in the first part of the show, Gus. But as we get back to it, I was thinking, I don't know if I've ever asked you, or maybe it's changed because you've been down there in Texas now for a few years on your own. You've got all kinds of road trips without me. It's so funny because we're together for so long. Guys are together for so long, and then like they go off different places and have whole other lives. It's like when people get married and divorced and remarried, like they have these whole other lives. And it's just the way life works. But then when you get back together, it's like not a second went by. But what is the longest road trip you've taken so far?
Oh, man. The longest road trip I've taken so far? I mean, it would honestly probably have to be the trips that me and Ray took from Houston to Nashville for Ring of Honor. That's like
that's a trek.
15, 16-hour drive right there both ways. You know what I mean? Like each way. So to get in the car, haul it there, do the show, and then come straight back. I remember one of the last times we did it, Ray had injured his ribs somehow and like couldn't really breathe, couldn't drive. He was supposed to wrestle the match the next day, and like he did like the whole ride, just didn't know he was going to be able to do it. And we just, gunned it the whole way there. Got him there in time. He ended up wrestling the show because he's a machine and he's a maniac, and absolutely tore it down too. Like that's just the kind of performer that he is. That's the kind of man he is. But yeah, that whole, the whole 15, 16 hours of like every bump we hit and just going, like, it's like, oh man, like it was such an intense time, like the only thing that I could really compare it to was when, after his accident, when, his arm's still shattered and broken. I was just driving him back and forth to the hospital for the stuff. And like every bump in the road we'd hit would like shift the bones in his arm, and it was just excruciating for him. And I was like, oh man. And as a driver, you're sitting there because you're trying, like, you have no control over the bumps in the road.
Like,
you know what I mean?
But
you feel, right? You're like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't mean to hit that bump. Oh, I didn't mean to hit that one either. Like, it's like a comedy thing. Like, oh, sorry about that. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. But like, man, it was one of those things where, you could see like in his eyes, he wanted somebody to fight. Like he wanted, you know what I mean? Like he was like, someone is going to pay for this pain that I'm going through. And speaking of fight though, it just dawned on me. What, didn't you do like an MMA thing in like Russia?
I was just
like,
getting ready to tell you. Okay, go ahead.
No, like I remember seeing that and you telling me about it, and just never checked in about how that went. But like, I mean, to tie it back in your point, that's got to be, as far as you've traveled for anything, I'm sure.
Okay, I can talk about this. Actually, you know what? I'm glad that we're talking about this because I've had a lot of people ask, and up until now, I literally have not talked about what all went down there. It was gender wars is what Shane's referring to. It was back in the beginning of the year. It was January. I can't remember the date. It was second week of January or something like that. And okay. So yes, had I indeed traveled to the initial destination that this thing was supposed to happen at, yes, it would have been my longest trip ever. But this doesn't qualify as that, but it's good enough to tell a story about. So check this out, Gus. The first part of it, like, how it happened. So the most random things happen to me in my career. I jokingly say that I'm just blessed. Like, if you're a Seinfeld fan, and which I know you're not, Shane, but if you're a Seinfeld fan, you know that Jerry was even Steven. He always said anything, bad that would happen, he would instantly, something good would balance it off. His karma was just like that. Things would always work out. And for the most part, hey, look, I've had bad things happen too. But for the most part, I've been relatively blessed like that. These opportunities come along that just don't happen to people. It's not even a skill to brag about. It's just my life. And this is the perfect example of it. So I'm up in, I can't even remember where I went to the casino. I went to go play in a poker tournament. It may have been Erie, may have been Pittsburgh. I can't remember. But anyways, point is just as I'm pulling in to the casino, I get a LinkedIn message. I use LinkedIn all the time, but not, it doesn't do a ton in the wrestling business. I used it a lot more in the radio business. So, and I can just see the preview of the message, and it goes, "Hey, are you interested in a real fight for," and there was a dollar amount, and it was quite a significant dollar amount. So I hit the button, and I opened this to Gus. I'm not even kidding, man. Like, I'm not bragging or whatever. Like, if it was enough to brag about, I would say it, but it was still a significant amount of money. And so I hit the button. The guy's name was Brad Kohler, and he's actually a notable blip in UFC history. If you look him up, he's from the Northeast Ohio area. He lives in Minnesota now, up near the Canadian border. I mean, the Great White North up there. And so he is known for one of the fastest and ugliest knockouts in UFC history. If you Google search him or YouTube him or whatever, boom, it comes up. It's like the one thing he did in the UFC. He has this nasty knockout, highlight reel knockout. And he puts the dude to sleep. It's definitely a good shot. And so anyways, I knew I recognized the name right away because I'm kind of a history buff for MMA. And I'm like, man, that's one of those early UFC guys, Brad Kohler. So he had some legitimacy as far as I'm reading his message. And basically, it's that he's going to run an event on pay-per-view in Russia, St. Petersburg to be exact, and that it would be, it was a 3-fight thing, and initially this was supposed to be 100% shoot. This was a real deal MMA, not professional wrestling, not amateur wrestling, not any of that stuff. It was going to be an MMA fight, and they had some freak show main event, which right away, look, man, I have been in the wrestling business for 20 years. Soon as I saw the main event was a man versus a woman for $1 million grand prize, I said, okay. Well, at least I know why this is in Russia, because clearly that's the only place something like this could get sanctioned. So, and I don't even know if you can get away with that in Russia, because I think they've got athletic commissions there too. But instantly, my wheels of interesting suspicion, to say the least, are beginning to turn. And so the guy goes, "Can I call you?" I said, "Yeah, Brad. I got about 15 minutes before this poker tournament. I'm still sitting in the parking lot of a casino." The guy calls me, and within 5 minutes, he tells me what he wants. He says, "Hey, look, I've got this guy." And he was actually very disrespectful in the way he described the guy to me at first. And I know why, because he was trying to make this thing happen. But he basically sells me that, he goes, "Hey, look, man, this guy named Shannon Rich, man." And as soon as I hear the name, it dings in my head, but I don't know why. I'm like, man, that sounds really familiar. Shannon the Cannon Rich. I know I've heard of that guy before. And so he goes, "Look, the guy's the most active fighter in the world. He's got 270 some fights or some ridiculous number of MMA fights." And he goes, "But he loses them all. He goes, "So what I'm offering you is a shoot MMA fight with this guy, and it's this much to show, this much if you win." And the amount to show was significant. Like, to be honest, the amount to show was all I needed to hear, because there was no advancing beyond that. Listen, I hung up the phone with Brad and I put Shannon Rich on YouTube, and it took me exactly 3 videos. And when I told this story to Shannon, he popped so big because it puts him over huge. I go, "Shannon, check this out. I put you into YouTube. I watched video number 1. You're working this Korean guy, and to be honest with you, I can tell that you guys are definitely not trying to injure each other. I'm not saying, that you're not trying to win, but you're definitely not trying to injure each other." And I said, I'm starting to see where this thing is going. I watched fight number 2. Same thing. Even more obvious. I said, oh, man. I said, now I'm sure of it. I said, I know what I'm getting myself into here. I said, I got it. Okay, cool. I'm your Huckleberry. Fight number 3. Right. Fight number 3 comes on. In 3 seconds, I watch him split this dude's face wide open. I pause the video, and I call Brad Kohler. I said, listen, dude. Listen. I'm gonna tell you. I said, I'm just going to tell you right now. I know what you want, and I can give you what you want. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? What I'm trying to tell you is that the very next day, I have a professional wrestling show that I need to be at, and I'm going to be there. And my face needs to remain in the same place that it was when I began. I said, look, I would love to do this. I would love to do this like with, this was, you got to understand, I left out the fact that this was with 12 days notice. 12 days notice. This wasn't like, hey, take 6 months and put a camp together, because I was very interested and still am very interested in doing that. I've got a lot of friends.
No, yeah, because you called me about boxing coaching and things like that.
Yes, I was up all for that. Like, I want to, as a bucket list, I do want to train, have a camp, and fight another amateur who's never had a fight, and just go out there for fun. And not for fun, I don't mean to disrespect MMA, but to go out there for the competition of it, to go out there and see what happens. So that was kind of in the back of my mind, but I wasn't even going to monkey around. I mean, and besides that, I had a medical procedure, which meant that my training window was as tight as could possibly be. I would have had to have been the most egotistical, hubrisly inflated person in the history of the world to insult a professional fighter and actually take a shoot fight with 12 days notice against a guy who's been doing this for longer than I've been a professional wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, I know how easy professional wrestling comes to me, brother. And I don't mean that in a bragging way. I mean just the basics of the things that you take for granted when you first start out. Show just the things about, just having been there and done that a million times over. So that same, anyways, I'm no fool. I would never disrespect a professional fighter like that. So right away, Brad goes, I figured you'd figure it out. We're on the same page. I said, we are absolutely on the same page, my friend. And so, no, but it gets way better, Gus. So I instantly throw off the dogs. Like I trained, but I trained, a lot of cardio and running and, Rocky montage shit. Not like I'm out here training jujitsu and stuff. You know what I mean? And, so I get on the plane and, here's the thing. So in the meantime, I had to sign a confidentiality agreement, which is the reason why I couldn't talk about this. The only reason I can talk about it now is because I got a call last week that the LLC has been dissolved. And so therefore the confidentiality clause that I'm actually looking at right now on my desk is no longer, it doesn't matter. There's no company left that can sue me. I actually had to sign a confidentiality clause saying that I could not tell anybody anything about what this really was. It was a work the whole freaking way. They wanted a pro wrestler to cut pro wrestling promos and go here and do what we do and have a nice, stiff, competitive looking effort that they can sell on pay-per-view as an MMA contest that is not a legitimate, obviously, sanctioned MMA contest. And so the gimmick was guy with 1 million fights against a guy who's never fought before. Clearly no athletic commission in its right mind would ever actually sanction that. That's a murder. I mean, you couldn't actually do that, And so anyways, all of this is going on, and I find out that instead I'm flying to this place in the middle of BFE, Minnesota. And so I end up going...
So not Russia?
Not Russia, Gus. Not Russia, Gus. Ended up on the Canadian border. Now, it was 30 below zero, let me tell you that. It was way colder there than it was in Russia. It's the coldest place I've ever been in my life. It was freezing that week. The highs were like minus 11. I'd screenshotted the temperatures. Oh, Gus, it was like Rocky Ivan Drago stuff, man. So anyways, So I do this thing, and it was great. Like, the actual thing working. Shannon Rich is an awesome dude. He's a hell of a fighter in real life. That dude's legit, and he's the man. He's a great guy. He's a true professional. And so anyways, we get together afterwards and go have dinner after this thing's over with and realize we haven't had a chance to talk at all. So we go, and we're getting ready to go, and we're going to hit up a local Applebee's, make it a real family time at the Applebee's. And
shout out to Applebee's, by the way. Always quality.
Applebee's,
shout out to Applebee's.
Eating good in the neighborhood. So as we're there, Shannon's manager turns to me and he goes, J-Rocc, I got to tell you, man, I really did not want to like you. I did not come here and want to like you. And I'm like, why? He goes, you don't understand. Up until a few days before the fight, and I get it, because they were trying to keep things, I guess, maybe on a limited basis or whatever. Right. So Shannon Rich, by the way, so it's kind of like the Great White Hype. You know how James Roper's training and
right.
Like Conklin's training, Roper's not training. It's in reverse. It's in reverse. The actual fighter thinks this is still a legit fight. He thinks that the promos that I'm cutting on YouTube, which are the most blatantly professional wrestling, I swear to God, I put on a camera in my car and I cut a promo like I was main event in the wrestling pay-per-view. And you should have seen these MMA people. These MMA people lost their minds because they're not used to anybody trying to sell a fight. And so Shannon Rich is training the whole time. He's going to fight this guy off the street who's talking trash. Meanwhile, I'm getting told what to say. I'm getting told what promos to cut. I'm getting told all along, man, this is exactly what we want. So anyways, obviously when we got there, they broke the news to Shannon. So these guys are telling me all this. And I'm like, wow, man. So like, up until yesterday, man, you just was training for a shoot, man. He's like, yeah. He's like, and here's the thing. I wasn't going to train at all because it's like, the guy's not a fighter. He's like, but I looked at you. I watched some of your matches on YouTube and like, how do I not train? Because if you knock me out, man, that's like the end of my career. He's like, so I have to train because I can't take any chances of. He's got
to make an example of you, guys.
Yes,
he's got to make an example of you.
Right. So he's training double hard, right? And Gus, this thing was like just a comedy of epic proportions. Meanwhile, bro, this thing blew up all kinds of ways. There were athletic commissions, investigations. The only person in this entire scenario who walked away with nothing wrong, no beefs, every part of his contract lived up to, and every penny he was owed in his pocket is your boy over here. I'm the only person. Like, dude, I'm not even kidding. I went there to do pro wrestling. I did pro wrestling. They high-fived me when I was done. They asked me to come back when they do another one. And I did exactly what I was brought there to do. Bro, let me say, you talk about, you've seen money marks and things like that in wrestling, people that invest a lot of money and throw it away. MMA, that shit's on a whole nother level. Let me tell you some of the stuff that I saw. Oh, wow. I watched a man pay for this whole junket that I'm jokingly telling you about. I watched a man go to the bank and withdraw $50,000 actual dollars from his bank account and proceed to give it away to people over the next 3 days. And the night of the pay-per-view, the servers went down. The internet crashed because the weather was too cold and it it was like minus 40. And so everything that could go wrong went wrong. If this thing had a chance to be successful, it died in the womb. Trust me. And I'm looking across, Gus, I'm looking across the building at the guy who paid for everything. And he's got a look like if there was a hatch to the roof, somebody should guard it because this guy may be looking for the path to a place to where he may want to end his suffering. Like he had that look on his face like he had permanent indigestion. You know what I mean? Like I just kept looking over Gus and his real life name was Mark. I'm not kidding. You can't write it. You can't write it this way. So I kept walking up to him all night going, man, Mark, tough night tonight, huh, man? You lost a lot of money, Mark. You lost a lot of money, Mark.
Listen, Gus, why would you go kick this man while he's down? You clearly think he's suffering, Gus. And you go over there, you make it a point.
No, I didn't kick him when he was down. Let me tell you. So one of the other attractions on this pay-per-view was to be a grappling exhibition between a couple of legitimate MMA former UFC guys. It was Travis Wolff and Wes Sims. You know who they are, right? And Wes Sims was coming in with Mark Coleman from Columbus and the Hammer.
Okay.
And the Hammer was going to be his coach. He was going to be his second in the corner. This was like the name fight on the card, right? This fight never happened. This fight never happened, and it was the most expensive fight that never happened that you'll ever see in your life, because Travis Wolff ends up getting paid, never gets on the plane, never shows up for the fight. And again, I'm not accusing him of no showing. I'm just saying whatever his problem was with them, he doesn't show up. So this dude's got money, never even got on the plane. Now you got Mark Coleman and Wes Sims. They've been in a hotel room with me for 2.5 days in Minnesota. And let me tell you, on the side, Gus, sitting and listening to Mark Coleman tell me shooter stories about fighting in Japan and MMA stuff and real, work shoots in Japan and working with Sakuraba and winning the Pride, the 24-man thing that he won and all of that stuff, and working, fighting with Kerr and the team that they had, just shooter stories from a real shooter whose nose is on the side of his face and his ears are cauliflowered up and he can't walk because his hips are swollen from all the years of wrestling. You know what I mean? And he's just telling you tough guy stories. So that was a very enjoyable part of this thing. But, so we're getting ready to go to the fight. And Mark pats me on the back and goes, all right, man, I'll see you later. I said, what do you mean? He's like, oh, we already got paid, man, but we're not going. We're just laying back in the hotel. These dudes, since the other dude didn't come, they called a promoter up to the hotel. Brother, let me just tell you, I won't tell you the dollar amount, but I will tell you that there's 5 figures in it, and it's what Mark Coleman got to spend 3 days in a hotel room telling shooter stories in Minnesota, because that's all he did was got on a plane in Columbus, landed in Minnesota, spent 3 days hanging out, got paid a significant amount of money, got back on the plane, and went back to Columbus. And Wes Sims, the same thing. And they were cool. They were cool to hang out with, but I watched this man you talk about watching wrestling people, bleed people. I watched something like that happen. It was amazing. It was a debacle in every step of the imagination, except for the fact that I did meet some great people while I was there. And of course I had a great time. I had a fantastic time. People go, hey, how was Gender Wars? I go, man, 2 thumbs up. Can't wait to work for him again. But that's me. But anyways, Gus, so long story short, I never made it to Russia. And trust me when I tell you, I was not hiding that. I felt bad. McChesney kept texting me. John McChesney, our friend, kept texting me and saying, where are you going? I know you're not going to Russia. Where are you going, man? And I'm like, and my answers were always, well, if the flyer says it's in Russia, then that's where I'm going, man. Because I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to my friends, but I'm also not allowed to say where I'm going. Gus, they made me sign a confidentiality. Now, once I got there, I realized what I was dealing with, and it wasn't worth the paper it was written on. But they sent me a confidentiality clause that said if anybody had found out anything about this before it happened, that I would be liable for the losses of pay-per-view revenue and millions of this and that. And So, Gus, I had no problem with that. That was fine. But when I got the call last week that the company went, they broke up the LLC because of whatever reason, and they reincorporated. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. I can talk about this thing now, man. Gus, it was amazing to watch the worlds of pro wrestling and MMA meld together in ways they weren't meant to meld together. But I will also throw this out there. Got a lot of MMA friends, a lot of them, very legitimate people. I'm not saying that just because what I'm saying here, don't take it the wrong way. That a lot more similarities than people want to realize. A lot more similarities between what we're all doing than people want to realize. That's all I'm going to say, Gus.
I agree with you, and I've said that for years, and all I point to is the fact that look at the way things are going now, and look at for two sports that are supposed to be so different, there's a lot of crossover athletes out there right now, aren't there? You know what I mean? There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys, trying to go back and forth. There's a lot of guys coming from MMA, jumping into pro wrestling. Ronda Rousey's one of them. Stephen Bonner's another one. And a lot of guys going to, Matt Riddle. One of the biggest stars in the sport today. I mean, it's. Like I said, all I'm saying is there's a lot of similarities, like you said, but I feel that way about just about every form of entertainment. At some point, if there is a dollar to be made on it, at some point, someone is stirring that drink. Is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely, and they know exactly which way.
The NFL, the NBA, boxing, championship, darts. I don't care what it is. If there's money to be made on it, at some point, somewhere down the line, somewhere up the ladder, someone's finger is stirring that drink. Is all I'm saying.
I agree 100%. I used to do this in my sports talk radio years. This was one of the things that I could really get into, and people would say, oh, it's just because you're in wrestling and you think everything's got to be a work, everything's got to be a conspiracy, everything. No, I'm telling you that if you know what you're talking about, if you've talked to enough people, you got enough common sense of your own, you know what you're looking for. Like he said, that is the best way to put it. Somebody's fingers pushing buttons. I'm not saying that y'all don't understand that everybody doesn't have to be complicit. It doesn't take nothing for these things to happen. Nobody knows. Matter of fact, guess what? The less people that know these things happen, the more true the reaction is. And that's what they need on the cameras, are true reactions. So actually, the art of what some of these sports do is the fact that they manipulate their outcomes without anybody knowing that they're doing it. They know what they're doing, Gus.
I'm saying. Listen, all I'm saying is this. If you owned a football team and you've got the best running back in the league, you've got a school bus with a jersey on in your backfield and you are 1 yard away from immortality, why would you throw the ball? And you've got two chances to do it. 2 chances to get 1 yard with the best running back in the league. Why do you throw the ball? That's all I'm saying. At some point, somewhere, somebody's finger is stirring the drink. Someone's pushing buttons. That's all I'm saying.
Gus, all you got to do is look at Cleveland sports history. And if y'all, I'm not going to revisit the history, but guess what year Cleveland finally won a championship? The year that the money in Cleveland winning became greater than the money in Cleveland losing. That is one of the best played, best milked storylines in all of sports, and the NBA was smart enough to capitalize on that first, man. And
you're talking about a 58 some odd year, 50 some odd year.
If you guys think that was just bad luck, if you think that was just one city's bad luck at every single sport, you got another thing coming, man. That's all I'm going to say. But anyways.
Someone was in that for the long haul, Gus. That's how you play one close to the rest for generations, man. Somebody
has been betting the futures. This is not just
5-year plan. No. Missed me with that Chuck shit.
This is the 8th grade draft right here.
Let me tell you about this 55-year plan I got going on. Let me tell you about what my grandkids are about to do.
Gus, the minute that sport The minute the NBA ended up with one of their referees in prison, they kind of lost all rights to even shirk at any of these things that we're talking about right now, because I've got a book 10 feet away from me written by Tim Donaghy where he explains his entire deal and how much they controlled not just results but point spreads and everything, and how much information that one referee had at his fingertips about every single thing, and how much he literally explained how all it takes is one, not a million bad calls. The league doesn't have to give the Patriots every call in the world. It takes one pass interference. It takes one traveling. It takes one goaltending, whatever you want to call it. It only takes one of them to change history. That's all it takes.
Yeah. It's out on the other team to change momentum, and it's a wrap from there. That's all it takes. There was actually a 30 for 30, and I know we're getting off the wrestling stories, but there was 30 for 30 about, I want to say, the mob and like Loyola.
Oh no, that's a great one. Like that. That's the one about Henry Hill.
And how they like fixed college basketball games for like years.
And that's the dude. That's the dude who ended up being in the movie. He was part of the story. He was Goodfellas, right? Was that Henry Hill?
I think so.
Right? Exactly.
And by the way, if there's any of those people at the top listening to this, look, we're just two guys from Cleveland. Like, there's no.
You gotta like, out or nothing, man. We're not telling nobody. We're not telling nobody else.
We're just talking to, you know what I'm saying?
We'll keep it between us. We'll keep it between us.
Right.
We ain't gonna tell nobody else. Just us and
nobody else.
We ain't gonna tell nobody else.
Nobody. Y'all, listen, I appreciate a good hustle. You know what I mean? I'm from the east side of Cleveland. I can appreciate a good hustle.
Can you? Can you appreciate a good hustle?
I can, Gus. I can appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, man.
I got a hustle for you. I got a hustle for you. And I swear, I know people hear these things and they're like, oh, these guys are just putting on a show. These things don't really happen. These guys are telling stuff. Listen, anybody out here listening right now, first off, if you've met Tracy Smothers any year since 2004, he's probably told you this story himself, because he tells this story still to this day all the time. It never fails. Tracy Smothers will turn over if he's talking to a group of wrestlers and go, hey, J-Rocc, hey, tell them about that time they stole your car in Pittsburgh at the tire place. And Gus, that's exactly what happened. We were driving to Pittsburgh. Tracy Smothers and I have taken a million road trips together. We were taking our monthly trip up there to, I believe it was IWC at the sport court time. It was when Norm was still the owner, Norm Connors.
Right.
It was a Court Time Sports Center was the hot building at the time. So Tracy and I are driving, and we're driving my car, and my tire blew out on the Pike. Relatively close to the building. We were right off the exit. So I had AAA and all that stuff. So we pulled off side of the road, called AAA. We're like hour and a half before bell time. And it's a big show. I want to say this might have been the Matt Hardy show. It might have been maybe it was the day AJ Styles wrestled Christian. One of those shows, he had a really big draw. It was either AJ versus Matt Hardy or AJ versus Christian. Anyways, point was, it was going to be a big house. And, Tracy and I both had a bag full of merch, and we were like, hey, man, we're going to make some money and blah, blah, blah. So we're trying to get the guy to come, and as fast as possible, they get the tow truck guy out there, and he's loading us up. And Tracy's like, hey, man, this is what's happening. We're doing wrestling. The guy's like, oh, Tracy Smothers. Yeah, man, I used to watch you all the time. And he's like, where are you guys going? And we told him. And he's like, okay, I'll take the car to wherever you guys want me to take it, and then I'll run you guys in my truck and drop you off at the building. So we're like, oh, bet. All right, cool, man. This is like a cool guy, right? Trip starting out awesome, even though bad that the tire blew out. All right, so he's going to shoot us up there. We get off the exit. National Tire and Battery. It's because it's about 7 o'clock at night on a Friday. Not many things are open at this point in time. So we get to the NTB. I'll never forget it because it's right there off the highway, and it's right before, I believe, you go down 51 and you take the long stretch through to Elizabeth. But we pull up to the National Tire and Battery, and we're like, hey, here's the thing. We've really got to get where we're going, like, right now. I've got a place to stay tonight. I've got a ride back here. Can I pay you, or can I leave my car? Can you put the tire on it and we'll come and get my car tomorrow? No problem. Okay. So they get the receipt. They print everything out. I pay for a new tire, and, nothing like a $140 tire, because that's all they had. Of course they get you for the premium tire, and okay, that's fine. Tire. And Tracy doesn't care. Tracy's like, J-Rocc, I'll pay for the tire. I'm like, no, Tracy, it's not you. He's like, no, I'll split it with you, man. Just whatever they got. Just, we got to go. So
normally you got to buy two. Normally you got to buy two, because you can't have them be.
Yeah, you can't have them not be paired. Yeah, right. No, I couldn't do it. I'm like, dude, I don't have it. I straight up told him, I'm like, I don't have it, man. I'm like, I don't have an extra $300 and whatever dollars, whatever it was. Right. And so anyways, he was cool, because like you said, he didn't want to do it. So he says, okay, you can come get your car tomorrow. So we go to the show. And everything's cool. Shirley Doe, great guy from Pittsburgh. We were going to stay at his house. He said, hey, you guys can drive with me. We're going to go get a bite to eat, and then we'll go to my house, and et cetera. So we're like, okay, cool. As we're driving, I think we were heading to like a Steak and Shake or an IHOP or something like that. We are driving right past the National Tire and Battery, where the car is. And as we drive past, I mean, it wasn't like even hard for us to notice the whole place looked empty. Like, just as we're driving around the corner, there's no cars in the bays, and my car's not outside. And Tracy goes, J-Rocc, where's your car? And we're joking, and Shirley Doe's like, you want me to pull in there real quick? And I'm like, yeah, what the hell? I'm sure it's in the garage or whatever. But we had left it parked out front. That was where we left it when we got there. The tow truck driver pulled it up in the bay or whatever. So, and we realized my car's got a flat tire, so it should be like just parked there, right?
Right.
So now they turn the brights on. We search in like the whole thing. We look everywhere. There's no car here. There's no cars here at all. So now I'm thinking, what the hell? Somebody must have stole my car, because the guy was leaving my car out in the lot, and he was supposed to leave it there with my keys in it so we could just come back in the morning and get the car if they weren't open. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, somebody stole my car. This guy left the keys in the car, and somebody happened to luck upon a car with keys in it. Like, great, this is all I need. So we go to Steak and Shake. We call the police in Pittsburgh or Elizabeth, whatever town we were in. They come to the Steak and Shake. They make a stolen car report. The police go to the National Tire and Battery, search for themselves. They come back and tell us that they indeed confirm car's not there. Car's definitely missing. So I go back to I go to Shirley Doe's house, and I'll never forget. You know how wrestling wives are, Gus. I mean, it is what it is. And so I try to tell my wife this story. And my wife doesn't like wrestling road trips enough as it is, because Lord knows it's a young marriage, and she's worried about what could possibly be happening out there. So I call my wife at the time and feed her this story. And now imagine how ridiculous what I'm saying sounds, that not only did my tire blow out, but then we took it to the National Tire and Battery, where somebody proceeded to steal my car. So that's a fun conversation. Meanwhile, I'm pissed. I'm like, I don't care what you say. My car has been stolen in Pittsburgh. So
this sounds like the worst. This sounds like the worst. I'm sorry, babe, can't make it home tonight story, but it's actually happening.
Real. But it's happening, right? It's like the worst cover story ever, except it's real. So as I'm talking to her, my phone rings, and it's the police. And I said, okay, I gotta take this. I click over, and they go, hey, Mr. Myers, can you come to? We would like you to come to the station. We want to talk to you personally. I said, okay.
Here we go.
Shirley Doe brings me up to the police station. I walk in, and the guy's got my keys right there on the desk. It's the officer, same officer from overnight. He was still on duty. He goes, the reason that I called you here personally is because I removed your keys from that lot and brought them here. I personally checked every inch of that lot when you called me last night. I'm the one that went there and that car was not there. This morning, when I went back to fill out the report with the manager, the car was parked in front. When I asked the manager where that car was last night, he said it had been parked there all night long. He said, Mr. Myers, I was there. I know that car wasn't parked there. I know somebody had been driving your car. So I took the keys. I brought them here so I could give you your keys so you can go get your car back. But so he confirmed that I wasn't crazy. They had taken the car.
Right.
Gus, we get to the lot. And remember, I told you I got the receipt as I was running out the door to go to the show. Well, what do they do at a car place when they put the receipt down? They take your mileage.
They put the odometer. Yes.
They put it on the thing. Me and Tracy take the receipt to the car. There were 227 miles more on my car than there was the night before when we dropped it off.
Wow.
We took it's so old of a story that we took a Polaroid picture because the damn Polaroid camera was all we had in the car at the time because we're wrestling.
Polaroid's so hot out here in these streets.
Yes, right? So, but yes, 227 miles. We called the police. They said there was no way we could actually prove who had taken the vehicle, but the police's guess was that one of the employees at the National Tire and Battery may have been running drugs or may have been doing something at night and therefore used my car to drive around all night in case they got pulled over or whatever. And so they were using my car for something. But yes, they stole my car overnight at National Tire and Battery in Elizabeth, Pennsylvania and put 227 miles on it.
Gus. Now, we talked about things that, like, are funny after the fact because nothing catastrophic happened. Again, and losing your son at a rest stop is right up there. But this one, what if they had caught the dude, like, running whatever, doing whatever with your car? What if they impounded it? What if he, 200, that's 3-4 hours of, you know what I mean? Like, that's a couple hours away and back. You know what I mean? Like, that's
227 miles, Gus. That's
what I'm saying.
Back,
that's almost
man.
4 hours of driving. Gus, anything could have happened. Your car could be anywhere, and they would have no idea.
How amazing! How amazing, Gus!
Wow.
And then, that was it's to this day. You ask Tracy Smothers, anywhere you're at, if you guys are in Tennessee, if you're in Indiana, if any of you guys listening are in the business and you come across Tracy Smothers this weekend, go, hey, tell me about what happened when they stole J-Rocc's car in Pittsburgh. And he will drop and tell you the story that I just told you word for word because he was next to me every step of the way, the whole time. And you know how Tracy is. If you've ever traveled with Tracy Smothers, he's going, J-Rocc, look, man. I know you're mad, but look, this is not our town. They got the cops. Because Tracy's got that Southern mentality. He's like, look, this is their hometown. They got the cops. They got everything, man. Look, this can turn into a bad day quick. Let's just go to our show and let's just move on, man. We got your car back. And, Tracy, it's just the way he is. But, he'll tell you that story to this day. He was with me the whole way, the day they stole the car we were driving at the National Tire and Battery in Elizabeth, Pennsylvania. They ever steal your car, Gus? They ever steal you while you're story topping? They ever steal your car? They might profile you, but they ain't take your car.
Oh, speaking of, you know what? No one has ever stolen my car. But speaking of profiling, Gus, you're a genius with the segue, my guy. Speaking of profiling, today on the Gus and Gus podcast, now normally, obviously, anybody that knows me, I'm taking man cards and I'm having them passed up to the front of the class. But today, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we have an extra special edition of man cards with Shane Taylor, and it begins with it not being a man card, but indeed a woman card. Yes, that's right, ladies. Pass your woman cards up to the front of the class as well. You are not immune from getting called out for doing stupid things. And now, and I tell you this story because going off of what you said with the profiling, obviously, I'm at a point in life where I'm not shy about my opinion about anything. So if you talk to me over social media or talk to me about topics that happen, we're going to have a conversation. And I have no problem telling you how I feel about it. But and a lot of my beliefs deal with accountability for police officers, wilding out, basically. And I was in Pennsylvania as well. So, hey, shout out to Pennsylvania.
We could do a couple podcasts just about Pennsylvania.
Listen. Lots more episodes about that. But I happen to be with our boy Bill Collier. The lady that he was with at the time. Also,
by the way, real quick, Bill Collier, the best unsigned, undiscovered talent in independent wrestling today, bar none.
Yes, 100%. Okay. And I was with him and the lady that he was with at the time. We were in like a 3-car caravan, as well as Angel Dust from Cleveland was there. And she was riding with the lady that Bill was with. Bill was in his car, and you had me in my truck.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, what's her name? Yeah.
And so I'm in the middle of these 3 cars. We had just left from a show and then went to like some guy's house who, for whatever reason, had like a ring in like his basement, but it was like this whole big listen, it was like this big cave of a house, and it was like, listen, anybody that knows me knows
that little part of the story alone. So we're leaving a show, the 4 of us, and we go to some guy's house who's got a ring randomly in his basement.
Yeah. But it was like a huge house, so there's tons of space for this ring that's just in the corner of his house.
You know what I'm thinking of right now? I'm not gonna lie. You know that scene in Boogie Nights where the dude's in a bathrobe and the kid's just setting off fireworks? I see that with a wrestling ring in the background, and the dude's just playing Sister Christian, and there's fireworks going off, and you and Bill Collier. Okay, go.
Listen, it wasn't too far from that, right? So anybody that knows me knows that I like to keep myself out of ridiculous situations, especially in places that I don't know, because that's just me, and that's the Cleveland in me. And no, I'm not going to be a part of that. There's diners in the middle of the country that I just won't go to. Just because, no, it's probably best that I not eat here. You know what I mean? Looking the way that I look. Just trying to keep it beautiful out here. So we ended up leaving. It's like 3-4 in the morning. I'm in the middle of this 3-car caravan, and I've got my music up because I'm tired and I'm trying to stay awake and jamming while we drive. And I don't really know where I'm going, so I have to follow them. Now, as we're driving, all 3 of our cars pass a police car, and immediately the thought goes through my head, I'm about to get pulled over. Now, there was no indication I wasn't doing anything wrong. There was no indication of me about to be pulled over. But as soon as we passed and I heard the tires screech, I knew what was coming. I knew they were coming for your boy. Right? I knew they were coming for your boy. Right?
By the way, that's the worst. I've been pulled over many ways, but when they're in the other lane and you see the tires screech and you know that they're turning around in the middle of the road, God damn. That dude.
The chill that goes up your spine. The chill that goes up your spine is ridiculous. You're just going, oh man, every worst case scenario starts going through your head. But what I was about to experience was something that I will never forget in my entire life. So, listen, immediately, I hear, and I go, here we go. You know what I mean? Lights come on. The female officer passes the car that was behind me. So it's not like if she was going to track me for speeding that the other 2 cars weren't going just as fast, because no one was speeding. Everything was fine. She proceeds to pass that car, get directly behind me, pull me over. So I say, okay, I pull over, take the keys out, put them on the dash, window down, hands out as you're instructed to do because I want to make it home. So Bill pulls over as well because, as I said, I don't know where I'm going, so I had to follow him. He waves on Angel Dust and the lady that he was riding with because, hey, there's no need for all of us to be stopped. Go on ahead. He knows where we're going. And so the lady proceeds to step out of the car, come over to me, and apparently has had the worst day ever because she pulls me over for outdated registration or the tags on the truck that, like everybody knows you have sort of a grace period when it's done. She didn't care about that. So she gave 0 F's about that. So she proceeds to give me the third degree about everything. I had a can of Monster, an orange can of Monster that I was drinking to, get me up and awake for the drive.
Why are you hold on. See, this is the mentality. Even as you tell the story, you're justifying why you have a can of Monster, Gus.
Listen, I have to be on my P's and Q's, Gus. You know how crazy this thing is.
I know.
You know how real these streets are.
So you got orange Monster, right? And you're like, ma'am, that's just to keep me awake. Okay.
Listen. The conversation went basically like that. She's like, what is that? And then she proceeds to shine the brightest flashlight I've ever seen in my life. Flashing it right in my eyes and back to the can. And sitting there and proceeding to tell me, is that alcohol? What is that? Is it alcohol? And I go, ma'am, it's an orange can of Monster. And now I am trying to be as calm and not escalate the situation by being a dickhead, but at the same time, I'm like, lady, look at the can. Like, read the label. What are you doing right now? Like, this is your job. Calm down, right? Like, I get it. You're the law. I get it. You're in charge here. You don't have to sell me. I understand, right? So then she asked me, like, well, why isn't your seatbelt on? I go, because I pulled the car over and took it off. Now she's like, now I understand she's probably heard that a million times, and maybe she's caught people, that just say that. But I honestly did have my seatbelt on, and I'm not going to sit there with my seatbelt on as I'm pulled over. So I took it off, right? So she's giving me third degree about that. She asked me for license, registration, all of that. Now, this is where I always make sure I have a clear understanding. My registration, all that stuff happened to be in the glove compartment. So I had to tell her and explain to her for a minute, hey, I'm going to take my right hand, reach over to my glove compartment, and I'm going to pull out my registration. I'm going to do it slow with my other hand visible so you can see I'm not reaching for anything except for what you just asked me for. Like, are we in accordance? Do we understand what's about to happen? Are you sure? Because you're a little jumpy. Are you positive you understand? Like, as clear as I checking. I'm just saying, you seem a little jittery. I'm not making any sudden moves. I'm not giving you any excuse to, to have someone explain to my family why I'm not here. So she's like, okay, yeah, grab it. I go, oh, okay. As I open the glove compartment, the pair of headphones that I had put in there falls out of the glove compartment.
That's them ever dangerous beats, Gus.
Immediately. What is it? Is that a weapon? Is it a weapon? I go, ma'am, chill. It is a pair of headphones. Look at the cord. There is no weapon on earth that I know that has a 2-foot-long cord attached to it.
Almost what made me shoot you over some headphones, man. Almost made me shoot you over some headphones.
Bro. So she takes all of my information. I'm sitting here dumbfounded, like, what sort of officer did I get in the middle of nowhere in PA that has never seen a can of Monster or a pair of headphones? And coincidentally, I did say Bill
I love
Cosby
that
had pulled over
caveat right
too.
there. What kind of cop did I get that has never seen a can of Monster or a set of headphones before?
I mean, it was real out there, you know. And I did say that Bill had pulled over as well because I was following him and I had no idea where I was going. So, and I misquoted because I actually did have my seatbelt on. That's the other part of the story that I'm about to get to. I actually did have my seatbelt on. And so she goes to Bill, and the first words out of her mouth were to Bill, well, since you were dumb enough to stop too, you might as well give me your license and registration. So he, of course, laughs that off and, okay, ma'am, is searching for it, can't find it, because the lady he was with happened to have his ID and all of that stuff in their car, and they had already taken off and been, and I think they were probably all already back at his house. So he doesn't have his ID, doesn't have registration for the car, none of that, and no seatbelt. And on top of that, as he's looking for...
This is the best part.
As he's looking for... Yes, as he's looking for all of this information, proceeds to... Bill collects pocket knives, by the way. He's a collector. He's a collector of things. Okay? Pulls out this big industrial-sized Ziploc bag full of pocket knives and things of that sort. Now, mind you, this lady just pulled her gun on me for a pair of headphones that just fell out. That
Beats
just
by
fell out of my
Dre.
glove compartment.
Beats by Dre, bro.
Now, she is now shining that ridiculously bright flashlight on Bill's clear plastic bag of pocket knives and other assorted weapons.
Hey,
and has
he's used to traveling. He's got him in a clear plastic bag, just like at the airport, man.
Listen. Has absolutely no qualms about Bill having this ridiculously big this plastic bag full of knives and
full
such.
Of death machinery,
No problem with no seatbelt. No problem with no ID and no registration. No problem with the fact
and a giant bag full of murder weapons.
Doesn't blink twice. Proceeds to thank him for his cooperation and comes back to me. So,
thank you for your cooperation.
Listen, I didn't know any of this until after we got back to Bill's house and he told me, and then I was flipping. So now at this point, like, my mindset has completely shifted. Now I'm just like, you know what? I don't care anymore. Like, this night is going to end the way this night is going to end regardless. Like, we're going that way, right? So she then tells me, I'm writing this site. You get 2 citations, one for the seat belt, and one for the red registration and the tags. And so, and she's like, and you're lucky that you're just getting this, because if I wanted to, I could impound the car. And my answer was, do what you got to do, man. Do exactly what you have to do. You know what I mean? Like, because at this point, I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I'm not going to get into a pissing contest with you. Like, clearly you have a point to prove.
Yes.
Like,
I can't win this. I can't win this.
Exactly. So, she writes me my tickets and all of that, and I finally get to leave, and the actually had the constable from the area, because I called it in, and I told him, I was like, look, I'm going to sue your whole place because this is ridiculous. The constable actually showed up to my apartment and was like, hey, I just want to apologize. That's not how, and it's the same tired story.
That's all right.
But,
it's still a personal apology, though.
Yeah,
at least it's an effort.
Very true, and it was very cool of him
still
to do so. our officers aren't trained that way, and that's not how we do things here. And I'm like, well, that's maybe not how you do things, but clearly your people are on another.
She did things.
She didn't
get that memo, man. That memo did not get to everybody.
She missed that training class. You know what I mean? But so for the ridiculous night in Pennsylvania that I had to go through for clearly, thinking that my can of Monster was an alcoholic beverage and that my headphones were somehow this new age weapon that no one has ever heard of, while simultaneously shining a light on Bill Collier's huge plastic bag of pocket knives and assorted weapons and saying absolutely nothing.
That's the best.
The officer for that night, and I can't remember her name, but
give me a man card.
My friend, can pass your woman card up to the front of the class, because you, my friend, are why these situations get out of control. When you can have a calm situation quickly escalate because one side has no idea how to deal with people of a certain hue, we'll say, and if you can't do that, then you can't do your job. And if you can't do your job, then find another line of work. But that is the edition of today's Man Card with Shane Taylor. Man, crazy
Gus.
stories traveling the road.
Gus, this crazy show went off the rails quick and stayed there, but you set me up to end it. You set me up for a perfect story. I'll tell it quick. It's a funny little rib gone wrong, and it's the perfect way to end this. And plus, I want to cheer you up after all that. I want to get you back at it. But you talk about traveling on the roads and police getting involved. Let me tell you a story. This happened, I can't tell you exactly when because I don't remember, but it was, about a decade ago or so. There was a car full of guys. There was a whole bunch of us I'm coming from Cleveland. There were guys coming from Columbus, and the destination was some show in West Virginia. So there was some point there where if you were coming up from Columbus or down from Cleveland, you would end up on the same freeway. So I'm traveling, and I remember driving past a car of guys from Columbus. And the crew from Columbus at that time was a guy who's still wrestling today, Jabari. He's a large African-American fella who is quite jovial and does both the Super Oprah gimmick as well as a Kamala-type gimmick as well, a Savage-type gimmick. And he's a very big practical joker, as all of that crew always was. And they had one backfire on him really bad on this road trip. So we're driving, can't remember the freeway, but it's right there where 71 in each direction or whatever comes together. So these guys pass us, and I can't remember who everybody in the car was. I think Bruce Gray, who used to be the colorblind referee, and now he's a wrestler, I believe. Him and a couple of guys who don't wrestle anymore, and Jabari were in the car. And they go zoom right past us, they wave hi, and they keep going. And I'm like, oh, hey, there's Jabari and those guys, man. All right, cool. So a few miles down the road, I see them pulled over at the side of the road, and their car is surrounded by police with guns. And
oh, wow.
I try to pull over because, I was real young. And I mean, we were all younger. And like you said, when they pulled over and then they get told to keep moving, that's almost identical to what happened to me. My wife and my son at the time were with me. And, well, he's still my son. She's just not my wife anymore. But anyways, we pulled over. And as long as J.D. Smooth don't leave him at a rest stop anyway, he's still my son.
Right.
But we pull off to the side of the road, and this cop literally yells, keep moving, get your ass back on the road. And he's got a gun in his hand. Like, sure, we got right back, no, like straight out of a movie. Yes, sir. Don't got to tell us twice. So I'm driving, right? And I'm like, what the hell just happened? So we get to the building. I tell the promoter, hey, look, man, I don't know what happened, but a few miles down the road, Jabari and those guys were pulled over, and the cops have guns on them. I don't know what happened. I tried to pull over. Cops told me to get my ass back on the road. Brother, about an hour later, those guys showed up. Let me tell you what these fools did on the road. So Jabari took a thing of wrist tape out of the gear bag that he was traveling with. He took some white athletic tape and he taped his wrists and he put a piece over his mouth. And I realize he's traveling in a car with 3 white dudes and himself. And then he proceeded to turn his head towards the window, breathing fog on the window with his hands taped together. And he proceeded to look at every car that they drove past. And he even wrote help in the window in the fog that he had fogged up on the window. So guess what happened? You can know where this is going. One of those cars saw this car with this guy looking like he's been kidnapped and driving down the road. These guys are just ribbing. They think they're having fun driving down the road. Apparently, one of these cars saw that, called 911, said there's a gentleman kidnapped on the freeway. Here's the plate number, blah, blah, blah. State troopers, shoom, 6 of them, descend on this car, pull him off the side of the road, guns drawn. They pull everybody out of the car. They get Jabari back to the back, and he untapes himself and everything. And they say, son, are you all right? It's okay. It's okay. And Jabari had to tell him that it was a big freaking rib, and they were just horsing around on the road. And I don't remember, to be honest with you, I don't know if they got charged, what they got. I do believe they got tickets. I don't know what the charges were or what they had to deal with. The police didn't want to let them go. Like, it was a big deal. And but these guys literally could have got shot. That situation could have gone way sour. These cops pulled them over thinking they thought that it was a armed kidnapping or something, Gus. I mean, oh my God. And then Jabari's like, no, and told him the truth or whatever. But how crazy is that? These guys were ribbing and having fun on the road. Somebody saw that shit, called the police, and it turned into a bad day quick. But how about that? How about that to end that story?
Oh, man. Absolutely incredible. All I know is when we get to the venue, someone's catching an ass whooping. Right there.
When they got there and told us, I said, what happened? And they said, man, and they told me that story just like I told you. And I'm like, oh my God, those guys are lucky that that's all that happened to their asses. Guys, we're lucky that you're with us this long, because this was a 2-hour podcast. And hey, I'm not complaining. We turn the mic on and we talk until we're done. But Gus, we're done. New Orleans, Supercard of Honor, Wildcat, WrestleMania, all kinds of stuff this weekend. I'm up here in Indiana. We've got all kinds of things to get to. Next week, we are going to talk about it all, and we'll circle back here and put it back together. But, man, this was a fun one tonight.
Absolutely. I had a hell of a time, as always. To everybody traveling, be safe. There's going to be a lot of people, a lot of madness, a lot of crazy things going on. Be safe. Look out for each other. Enjoy the wrestling. Just come, be a fan, enjoy the show. Put all the, bullshit aside and just have a great time enjoying, one of the best weekends of wrestling of the year. And we'll see y'all next week. And as always, for myself and the Big Daddy of Destruction, keep it beautiful.
Keep it beautiful and keep your head up. We'll see you next week right here on Gus and Gus Eat the World, and it's money. Gus and Gus Eat the World and its money. Brought to you by our good friends at ProWrestlingTees.com, where you can get great designs from yours truly, J-Rocc Daddy, and the big homie, Shane Taylor. Whether you want to get the one-punch Shane, knockouts for everyone, or many of Big Shane Teasy's designs, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor. And of course, yours truly has the Give It Up One Time shirt. Popular logos on there mixed in with the Big Daddy of Destruction flavor. All of that and more at ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc. J-R-O-C-C. So whether it's Big Shane Taylor or the Big Daddy of Destruction, go to ProWrestlingTees.com and pick up one of our shirts or one of the many great shirts they've got there. ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor, ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc. Give it up one time, and thank you for supporting the Gus and Gus podcast and ProWrestlingTees.com.
Stay in touch with Gus and Gus on Twitter and Instagram 24/7, at Shane216 Taylor, at J-Rocc Daddy, that's JROCC Daddy on Instagram and Twitter.